We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, to establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Welcome, my friends, to the show that never ends. Step inside, step inside. Man, I am excited tonight. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. I have a magnificent person waiting in the wings just for you guys. I've seen her at work. I've seen what she does. She's fantastic. In fact, the organization that she represents, Moms for Liberty, holy smokes, these people are on the job. They're getting it done. And I got to tell you, if you don't know who Moms for Liberty is, you need to go and do your homework, because this is worth paying attention to. Talking about a coalition, talking about an army of warriors who are going to stand up, because we're not talking about our future. We're talking about the future of our children, our children's children. We're talking about what kind of world that we want for our posterity, as the preamble says, our posterity, which is our generations behind us, our family line. What kind of world are we going to leave? So this is the message tonight. This is the conversation we're having. Everybody get in, get your popcorn, get your drinks, get your seats, because the show is about to get rolling. And remember, remember, I'm paying attention to the chat. So if you got something you want to get in, then get it in, because the conversation is for all of us. The future of this nation is for all of us. And here to help me talk about it is our good friend and representative of Moms for Liberty, Jennifer Pippin. Here she is.
Hey there. Thank you
How
so
you
much
doing?
for having me on. This is amazing. That intro was amazing.
Just nothing but the truth. Nothing but the truth. So before we really dig in, I got to let everybody know, because they've been watching this controversy go on. We had you scheduled for a couple of weeks ago, but the devil was trying to hold us back, it seems, because you got in a car accident.
That's right. That's right. I did. But here we are 2 weeks later and ready to rock and roll. And there's been a lot that's happened in the past couple of weeks. So maybe it was meant to be for us to be able to talk about those things.
I know, right? So much unfolding. But I will let you know, I spoke to the BPL family, all my followers out here. One of the things that we do is we're also prayer warriors. We spend a lot of time talking to God. And we spoke on your behalf as well. So it's fantastic to see that you're doing good and you're recovered. And we're gonna thank God for that as well. So
I appreciate that, and appreciate all your listeners as well. I do. Thank you so much.
All right. So I guess the best way to start this, I mean, between the two of us, in all honesty, you're the pro on the show. I'm just the guy that talks a lot. So how about you give us an overview of what Moms for Liberty is doing, what you guys have accomplished, what you hope to accomplish, just the general, shotgun view, if you would.
Sure, I love it. So I could speak 10 hours straight on this, but I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. So Moms for Liberty was started in January of 2021. It was formed by two school board members that didn't want to serve again. One lost her race in Brevard. And said, you know what, we want to continue advocating for children. We want to continue to advocate for parents, parental rights. And they started Moms for Liberty in January of 2021. And at that time, there was just the Brevard chapter and the Indian River chapter, which is my chapter. And we said, you know what, if we can get 67 chapters in Florida, that would be outstanding. We would have two, school board members who knew how to advocate, how to direct us to, how we can advocate best for our children. So, within 2 months, they got a call from New York. And that was our first out-of-state chapter. And I remember getting the phone call and they said, Jen, we're going national. Like Moms for Liberty is going national. And I said, this is crazy. I never thought it was going to be this big. So now years later, again, from January of 21 to current, we have over 300 chapters, over 200,000 members in 48 states.
Wow. I got to tell you, before you carry on, I got to tell you, I am as somebody who knows, who you are and what you do, what your whole organization does. And also knowing, how far you personally have come in this I'm just so proud of you guys. I just don't have the words to express how proud I am. So many people worry that America's doomed. America's doomed. They're throwing so much evil at us. We're going to be overcome with it. And I say, no. We got a whole bunch of pissed off moms.
That's right.
We got a whole bunch of pissed off moms. And I'll tell you what, I think I would rather fist fight Jesus himself than I would go up against a whole group of pissed off moms.
That's right.
I'm just kidding.
That's
but
right.
I mean, my God, if you could list off for us, some of the things that Moms for Liberty has accomplished.
Sure. So Moms for Liberty came to birth in the middle of COVID. So, we were looking at the mandates. So the masking mandates, the vaccine mandates, school closures. There were still schools closed in 2021. So we were trying to help those chapters across the state get their schools reopened, give the truth, the facts, and the stats to, get children back in in-person learning. and, and make sure that there wasn't any mandates. And if people, wanted to wear masks or they wanted to get the vaccination, that was absolutely their choice. But, to have the option was so big because across the country, we were not seeing that. So even if the schools were open, they were having all of these, crazy mandates. So, we were kind of born into that. And, we always say we kind of looked behind the education curtain, because at this point, once our kids were home, we were seeing the curriculum, we were seeing the library books, we were seeing all of these things that, people like me never paid attention to. I was working full time. I had, 2 kids, and, I wasn't looking as much as I was when I was, teaching my children, when schools were shut down. So, since then, that's gone into, looking into library books and finding pornographic and sexually explicit content books, and, critical race theory being taught to teachers in schools. And, every time, we find an issue, we see it's across the country, regardless if it's, red or blue. And, that's what we do, is we advocate for, as a nonpartisan organization, for parental rights in children.
Now, I gotta kind of we gotta take a step back for a second, because I think there's something to that. We were talking about the first night I met you, and for a lot of my followers know, I'm a member of my local Republican executive committee. I'm a committeeman, precinct captain, poll watcher, etc. And that's where I first got to meet Jennifer. And one of the things that we were talking about, and it's something that, we've talked about a little bit here, the school books. Now, a lot of us know, like we had to read in school, the story of Anne Frank and all that. But what they've turned that into now, if you could, Jennifer, if you could, maybe, explain a little bit of how, just nefarious this school book issue has really gotten. Because I think there's still a lot of people that aren't quite dialed in on that yet.
Right. Well, and there's so much controversy and there's so much misinformation out there that, people say, oh, we're banning books. No, we're absolutely not banning books. We're curating books. Not every single book belongs in a children's school library or a classroom. So, every book, and this is the Moms for Liberty stance, every single book belongs in the public library in the adult section. Whether we agree with it or not, that should be available. But when you have minor children in schools, you can't have, graphic rape and incest and pedophilia and bestiality. That's not appropriate or legal for K-12 schools. So what we've been noticing is that this is an issue that has been kind of overlooked for so many years because, media center specialists and librarians were not held accountable for what was coming into children's libraries.
Well, even worse too, we were noticing that, there were teachers that were making these books part of the curriculum. And we're talking elementary level kids are reading. Now, to be clear, so everybody understands that the new illustrated version of Anne Frank, part of the Anne Frank story, there were some explicit scenes, so to speak, that happened in her story, and they were actually quite heartbreaking. They made an illustrated version. That means they drew the pictures, and they actually are showing the scene step by step, and for all intents and purposes, it looks like a how-to.
That's right.
To commit sexual acts. And it's drawn out graphically. It's not kind of, sort of. It's explicitly very detailed. And when I saw it, not only was I disgusted, this is repugnant that we would put this stuff in front of our children, or even really honestly, the idea that, Anne Frank, that's something for the history books. That's not something to make light of with this garbage that they're turning it into. But that's the thing that astounds me, is that somebody would have thought that this is acceptable. And that's not even the worst one out there. If you could, Jen, could you tell everybody a little bit about genderqueer?
Sure. So genderqueer is made by an author who is non-binary, all these, LGBTQ terms that, it would take me probably an hour to explain them all and what they think they are. But genderqueer is about a book that goes through this person's life, and smack dab in the middle of it, there is a full pager of two girls that identify as boys. Am I allowed to say this on your show?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let her rip.
Okay.
We're dead honest here.
Okay. There's two girls that identify as boys, and there is a strap-on sex toy, and one of them is performing oral sex on that sex toy. And it's been found in elementary, middle, and high schools across the country. And they're saying that this book is appropriate because some people are gay, or they are lesbian, or they're bisexual, or they're trying to figure out their sexuality. And this is how children get exposed to sex in these books. So, and there's many others. I mean, there is a book, right, called Flamer, and it right smack in the middle of it, found in mostly middle school, so ages 10 to 12 across the country, where all the boys in the room are supposed to ejaculate into a Pepsi bottle, and whoever can't do it and can't perform has to drink the bottle. So, you're seeing all of these absolutely, again, graphic rape, incest, pedophilia, just disgusting sex acts that are being put into these books and then just put into the schools because the publishers are getting, the top 100 books that kids want to read, but kids have never read them. Yeah. They're just trying to make money off of them. They're getting put into the schools, and then they're getting 20 free books because they bought all these top 100 books that kids want to read. And then, they're being exposed to children, and, and they say, oh, it's not, this isn't happening. These books aren't in the schools, but, kids are coming home with them, and we've challenged them across the country.
So I wrote an article, because I don't know if you know that, and I write articles as well. And I wrote an article about, some of this, and then also the fact that you remember when The Sound of Freedom came out. Mm-hmm. And the lashback the left gave over a true story movie about a true person. This is a documentary. It's not even a movie. It's just a documentary depicting all the things that this guy did to free children from sex trafficking. Mm-hmm. And the left came unglued about it. Well, I wrote an article giving an overview of all of these events and what's going on. And I got a lot of traction on the article, on social media and everything else. Like almost 100,000 views just on the one article. And here's the thing about it. Even when I explain in detail why we see the left as a group of degenerates and pedophiles, like I give them details, like this is why we think of you like this, they still push back, and they're basically saying, nuh-uh. It's like, you're going to do all this and then tell us our observations are wrong. It's absolutely sickening that we're going down this road, and then even more sickening that they would fight so hard to defend it. And I don't get, this is the biggest thing that I don't get when we go back and look at everything politically, because, political, maneuvering is all about strategy and how to get the most votes for this and the most support for that, et cetera, et cetera. I don't see any way that they win doing this. I don't even get why they're so adamant about going down this road, but it's absolutely sickening. I mean, just disgusting. And I truly wonder, because I have paid attention. I have been reading. I read the articles. I watch some of the videos. I watch some of the Moms for Liberty speeches that have happened over the last few years. Some pretty big ones with some pretty big people. And I wonder how far into the abyss of degeneracy we would go if Moms for Liberty hadn't been in the middle of this fight, putting their dukes up.
It is. It's been a crazy ride. And, I talk to people all the time and they say, there's no way that these books are in schools, or there's no way that this issue's going on in schools, or, this is a red state, or this is a red county, or red. You hear that all the time. And then we come with the facts. So like our organization is based on facts, stats, and the truth, much
Right.
like much like you're streaming, and as much as people don't want to hear the truth, I mean, it would be so much easier for me to, be watching a movie with my children right now, eating popcorn and, but, getting the message out there and putting this information out there is so important, on a national level and a local level. I mean, a lot of us have school board elections coming up, city, county, sheriff's races, things like that. And, just trying to get people involved and, just bringing that education and awareness to people, because so many people don't realize what's going on in the schools or, with education. And, it's just so important to, bring these issues to people, because a lot of people don't know, or a lot of people don't have children in schools or grandchildren in schools, but, these are our future leaders. These are our future doctors and lawyers and, cafeteria workers and bus drivers. I mean, so we have to really give them the best material on all fronts.
And most importantly, these are our future voters.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So I think too, like even in the county, I imagine in your county as well, there's a lot of parents who, like they hear about, the conversations their kids are having about, gender identity. And, even recently I've heard a couple of parents talk about there was somebody at the school trying to be a furry and all that garbage. And most of these parents, this is the thing that I see, when I have the in-person conversations, a lot of these parents, they pass it off as, the idiocy of children. And they don't realize that this isn't the idiocy of children. This is the idiocy of the school board pushing this, promoting this, this idea. When they say I identify as, they're really saying I pretend to be. And they're giving it legitimacy. And I don't know, I'm just astounded by all of it. I would say at this point, it's almost, and I wonder if you have the same experience, that it's almost like we're in like some sort of third dimension. Like there's like I stop once in a while, I'm like, there's no way this could be really going on. Like this is far more than dumb.
That's right. Well, and there's a lot of outside organizations that are coming in. The teachers union are, using billions of dollars to try to get their candidates, elected. There's, groups like Equality Florida who are only for LGBTQIA plus rights. And, they're trying to bring in all these backdoor guides and things that don't have to be voted on. So it is just, from the top down. I mean, the Biden administration, just for your listeners, starting August 1st, wanted to implement that there's no sex. Like you can't define yourself as male or female in schools, in college. Basically saying that, boys can go in the girls' bathrooms, play their sports, locker rooms, overnight field trips. And, the state of Florida put a lawsuit against them, I believe 16 or 17 other states, and Moms for Liberty as well. Our national organization won the lawsuit to say that every school in the country that has a Moms for Liberty family in it will not, be, doing this. The girls are going to be protected. Boys are going to be protected from putting themselves in the predicament of girls' restrooms and such. So, you would think that that's something that we wouldn't even have to discuss, at any capacity, but they were trying to do it August 1st.
It's craziness. It is absolutely astounding. And just a real quick note, everybody watching, I want you to understand something. Moms for Liberty is not all just moms. There's a lot of dads too that are in that organization that are participating. So you don't have to identify as a woman to be able to support Moms for Liberty. There are a lot of men that are in there helping fight the fight as well, that are giving, the background support, the legal support, everything else. So if you're near a Moms for Liberty chapter, and even if you don't sign up as a member, I guarantee you they're going to appreciate every bit of support they can get. And I'm sure you can tell them a lot more about that than I can. I just felt the need that we need to share that the more of us that get on this fight, the more of us that are paying attention, the more of us that are educated. And that's really the biggest thing. I'm going to share with you something real quick, Jen, that I talk to my followers a lot about is, and I think you guys, I think Moms for Liberty does a magnificent job of this. As a woodsman, a hunter, as a person who loves being out in nature, when I'm walking the trails, I'm not always thinking, I'm not always paying attention, I'm not always watching for danger. But I'm so used to certain pattern recognition that even my subconscious will immediately pick up on even something as, I'm sure you've seen the tiny little pygmy rattlers that we have here in Florida.
Yes,
I mean,
they're
these
everywhere.
things are tiny,
Mhm.
but they're deadly. My God, they're deadly. You get bit by one of those and you've got problems, friend. You got big problems, especially if you're out in the woods alone with no one to help you. So my brain, like one of these things, these little tiny snakes can be coiled up in the oak leaves. I mean, just magnificently camouflaged. But my brain catches it right away. Pattern recognition, boom, danger, danger, danger. My brain's screaming at me, and I stop. And I've noticed this, quite often because it happens a lot. Because I don't pay attention like I should, but I say the same thing about, and it's kind of been true for me about, this political world. The more we can educate each other and help everybody understand where you see these patterns of behavior, where these patterns of, even speech, it's like when you hear these leftists start talking about, the way they talk about something, where they do that little double talk routine that they do. The minute you hear that, boom, danger, danger, brain alarm bells start going off. And I recently was looking because of course, I'm going to have Moms for Liberty on. This is a big deal to me. This is a really big deal. I'm absolutely amazed by Jennifer herself, let alone the whole organization. So I thought I would go and do a little bit of research, make sure I'm brushed up on the details. I mean, I've already watched a lot of the speeches and stuff like that, so I have a good idea. But I wanted to get the detail. Well, one of the things that I came across, and I'm sorry if I'm stepping on your toes, you got to share this information, but they have a YouTube channel.
Mhm.
They have a YouTube channel, and I'm sure, Jen, you can tell us a lot more about it. But man, there's a lot of videos on there about a lot of topics, and it's worth checking out. And I don't know, you have more you want to add to that?
Sure. Yeah. So even on our www.momsforliberty.org, we have little tabs of all the issues that we've seen, across the country and, how to fight it. Even if you're not a Moms for Liberty member, again, like you said, just educating and bringing awareness to these issues. So like recently in California, they passed a law that says that you don't have to have parental consent to have your child change their gender. So that's happening in schools where they're starting, puberty blockers. They're, put them in different bathrooms than their biological sex. And, all of these things are going on. So many people are yanking their kids from public schools because they don't have the fundamental right over their children. So again, even though we have Moms for Liberty chapters, they are saying, listen, no, we don't want these laws. We don't want this to be for our kids. They're not listening. So they're really kind of ramping up there and trying to, speak some more truth there. They're pulling their kids out, which will pull the funding out. So,
Right.
I mean, there's issues going on all across the country. And, even the places where we we live in free Florida, we have an amazing governor. We still have our issues. And, what's here now, I mean, may go out to other states and they're seeing what we're doing or, what's working for laws or, what's working for curriculums or books, and it's going across the country. And I think that's why it's such a big movement, is because a lot of these things, were just getting kind of swept under the rug before. Nobody was looking at it. Nobody was looking at public school libraries. Nobody was really looking at the curriculum because they trusted the educators. And now kind of looked behind the education curtain and kind of, blew the lid off of so many of these things. And they say, oh, we're domestic terrorists, we're horrible. No, we're holding them accountable for years and years and years of these things not being held accountable.
I think that's one of the issues too, is that we've got to start holding ourselves accountable. And I truly believe that the reason Moms for Liberty has gotten as much traction as it has is because, so many Americans now are realizing, A, there's a problem, but B, how do we go about dealing with the problem? Well, when we have a group of people that are organized and leading each other and helping each other, like, okay, I've got a plan. This is how I get a hold of this person, or this is how I, file this suit or whatever. Now we have people that are networking together. And I think that's the real thing, about all of this is now Americans are waking up to the fact that, we've been asleep for far too long. And that's the real truth. We trusted people that it turns out we can't trust. And I think we're all learning a hard lesson because of that. So what are some of the big fights going on? I know we just had one that Moms for Liberty won. So you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So that's that Title IX with the Biden administration. So as soon as the Biden administration said, listen, as of August 1st, we're going to basically open up all the bathrooms and all the locker rooms and overnight field trips and, girls sports. Look how many people fought for girls to have separate sports, that in K-12 schools and colleges. So even dorms. So you have, your freshmen going out there and, they're sharing dorms. You could have a male rooming with a female, sharing the same bathroom. So many states said absolutely not. Moms for Liberty National said absolutely not. So many parental rights organizations across the country said absolutely not. And they got hit with so many lawsuits that right now it's on hold. So just imagine if all of those people on the states didn't do anything. As of August 1st, you could have a kindergarten little girl have a fifth grader boy in their bathroom with them, or playing their sports, or changing in the locker room for PE. And it's absolutely horrible. And this is something that everybody should be on board with. This should be a nonpartisan issue to protect children, to have these private spaces.
More importantly, it should be a friggin' no-brainer. Like, look, I'm a man, and I know I checked. And I am a biologist because I recognize the difference. So that makes me a biologist, evidently. But as a man, that means at one point I was a boy, and I know how damn dumb boys are. And the last thing in the world we need is a bunch of little dumbass boys running around in the girls' locker room with the girls. That in and of itself, I mean, just forget all of the other stuff, which is far more repugnant than even that. That alone is, I mean, just a line too far.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we even had a school board member here in the month of May when we brought a resolution to the school board. One of our school board members brought it that basically said, listen, we're going to stand with the state of Florida. We're going to do this. We had one of our 5 school board members vote no to approve the resolution. And again, we're here in a red state, in a red county. 4 of them were like, absolutely, we're approving this resolution. We don't want, our young girls in K-12 schools compromised. And we had one that said nay. She voted no to the resolution. So, I don't know how it is there in your county, but I mean, again, that's why, elections are so important. People think that their vote doesn't count, and it absolutely does.
One of the things that counts too, and I think that's what is giving, particularly Moms for Liberty. I mean, my God, you got to be probably the biggest political organization in the nation, and growing, I might add. But the one thing that they've tapped into that makes all the difference in the world. Okay, we have to vote. She's right. She's absolutely right. We have to vote. But the thing that makes our voice really matter is our voice. When we unify, when we get together as one organization, as one group of people, I mean, my God, if we could just unify as Americans and unify our voice and get in the faces of all these school board members, because one of the things we're doing right now, and even in the county where I'm at, is our executive committee has been organizing people and saying, hey, we need at least 2 people at every school board meeting. There's not going to be another school board meeting that's not going to go unattended. We need at least 2 people, and if there is something important on the docket for that meeting, we're showing up, and we're going to get as many people as we can. And here's the thing about it, it's not even about whether or not you have a good argument or you don't have a good argument, a good position, whether you're a good speaker or not speaker. Just showing up in numbers makes them rethink what they're doing. And that's what we have to do. We have to show up. We have to participate. Even if we all just stand there and stare sullenly at them and say nothing, we have still showed up, and it still makes a difference in the world. And then on top of it, when you have an organization like Moms for Liberty, I mean, they know these people are aware of the numbers of people that are behind that name. And one of the greatest things that we can do is help build those numbers and go after them, man. Go after them, because even if you get the wrong people in the school boards, if you give them enough public pushback, they're still going to do the right thing, not because they want to, but because they're afraid not to. And that has to be, unfortunately, that's where we're at. That has to be the message is, you're going to do what we want, or we're going to throw you out and put someone in your place.
That's right. Absolutely. And that's why local elections are so important. I've talked to a lot of people in the past year, because with the elections they knew they were coming. What are your issues? What are you seeing? Is there something that needs to be changed? Let's, and connecting them with the candidates for school board. I'm like, listen, you need to talk to these people. You need to know what their stances are on things. Ask them the hard questions. Go to the school board forums where they're put on publicly, and, go up and ask them a question, and don't just automatically judge somebody by their website or, something like that. Like, have they spoke up publicly at a school board meeting if they're running for a school board? It is so important to get involved and engaged. And, if, education isn't your thing and school boards aren't your thing, going to your county commissioner meetings, your city meetings, and just really getting involved and seeing what you can do and what you can give back, and connecting with people. Because you have no idea how many people I talk to, and they don't even know that there's, a city race going on, or school boards going on, or supervisor of elections. So all of these little things locally, most of these will be decided with the August 20th vote. And, when I'm talking to people, they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to vote in November. Like, absolutely. And it's like, no. A lot of these local elections are going to be done. I don't know how it is in your county, but I think we're going to have 3 that go to November, and then all the national elections. So, just again, informing people, like, learn people's stances, have those hard conversations with your elected officials.
Yeah, here, our local elections, and particularly our primaries, like we have a big primary right now for sheriff. We have 3 people running for sheriff, which I'm glad to see. We need a little bit of shakeup in this county, but August 10th. It all starts August 10th. So, pay attention, because this is one of the games they play. It's just like when the Federal Reserve Act was pushed in 1913. The Federal Reserve Act of 1913 is what it's called. And, one of the things that they did to push it, one of the little dirty tricks, and like I said, 1913, this is in the history of the United States. The Democrats have been dirty little tricksters from all the way from the beginning, really. And one of the things they did is they waited till Christmas Eve, when everybody was gone. There wasn't, not even half of Congress was there, and they made sure that they kept everybody back that they wanted to pass the vote, and that's how they did it. And so they play on the same thing. They play that, they try to get all these things in when they think you're not going to be paying attention. And so for all of us as Americans, and this is one of the great things that Moms for Liberty does, is they help educate on all of these points and point out that, hey, this is when you need to be paying attention. Hey, this is what the issue is. This is when we're voting on the issue, or this is when we're pushing back, or this is when we need you to be somewhere so that, we can accomplish this or that. You see what I'm saying? It's a way to organize and to keep yourself educated on the issues. So I could personally go on for hours as well about Moms for Liberty. I'm not even a member. I'm not even a member.
We need to change that, right?
Right. I'm so astounded at how much they've been able to accomplish, but I'm also so proud. Jennifer, particularly, I'm just amazingly proud of. It's a big deal. It's a lot. So here's the thing. There's been, just a litany of things going on and a litany of things to still pay attention to. So I don't know if you had a few things you want to run off the top of your head that's going on or has been going on.
Sure. So again, more things just going on across the nation is just trying to get out people to vote. So one of our big initiatives is we got a $3 million donation from a couple of different, organizations and private donors. And instead of taking that money and putting it into our Moms for Liberty endorsed candidates across the country, we're trying to get people to get out and vote. So we're doing this big thing with ads and, having chapters go out and try to do voter outreach and, giving a little bit of a stipend money to, these individual chapters, because we govern our own chapters, to get out people and vote. And again, not to say, hey, you have to be a Moms for Liberty member. You have to vote who, we endorse. Just get out and vote. Just learn. So we're literally taking that $3 million and taking it and trying to, get people out to vote, for these upcoming elections, which is huge, because I don't know of any other organization that's doing that and not telling them that they have to be with our organization and have to vote for our people.
So do you know, has anybody reached out to Scott Pressler?
On a national level, I would have to find out. I don't know the answer to that question.
Have you been watching what he's been doing?
I have.
That guy is for one person. One person, the amount of votes that he motivates, the amount of registrations, the amount of conversations that, I'm seeing stories about this guy even stopping at a rest stop on the side of the interstate and still shaking hands and getting votes. He's out talking to everybody, and there's a chance, by the way, there's a chance, because he's been working. He's got people helping him. He's getting other people motivated, and he's another astounding individual, but there's a chance he might single-handedly flip Pennsylvania for Trump.
Wow.
Which it's amazing thing to see. And I think that when we all work together on all of this, and that's the thing, even you guys in the chats, you have every opportunity, even if you speak to a neighbor, speak to a friend, speak to a family member. I know some of you I know personally, you have some family members that they need a good speaking to. So, consider it. This is our future we're talking about. So what else we got going on?
So, again, the biggest thing is, elections, right now, it's just, getting out the people to vote. But, there's different things going on. So like in another state, they're, still, battling with the gender dysphoria issues and, trying to look at the laws there that, saying that, listen, under 18, you cannot cut off, healthy breasts. You cannot cut off healthy, penises, and doing getting children put on the puberty blockers and, really looking at detransitioning. So we always talk about transitioning and, the detransitioning and the amount of people wanting to commit suicide when their children and then wanting to detransition. So that's been a huge thing with Moms for Liberty too. We have January Little John, who lives in the panhandle of Florida, that is going around and just talking to people and going to these summits and going to all these events and talking about, these people who, made these life altering choices, and they're pharmaceutical patients for life, and now they can't have children, or they can't do these things that they didn't realize when they were getting these things done from 11 to 17, when their brains aren't even fully developed, and wanting to commit suicide and not being able to detransition. We always talk about the transgenders, but let's talk about that other end with children. And again, not adults. I mean, if adults want to do that,
freedom,
yeah, that's absolutely their right. But we're talking about children, and the children that are getting it done, like January Little John's daughter, who was getting transitioned and allowed in the boys' bathroom without parental consent until we had the parental rights law here in Florida. So again, you got a red state, and this young girl was being basically groomed and transitioned by the schools, and that's something that people don't want to talk about, but it is a huge issue across the country. And the detransition with the suicide rates are off the charts, and nobody's talking about it. You can't find the information on it because they don't want that to get out, because they want these surgeries to happen. They want these, pharmaceutical patients for life. And, what easier to attack than the children?
Yeah, and I think too, we got one of our people in the chat, Possum Trap. I love the name. He said, I assume it's a he. Oh my God, you misgendering me. He says the other thing that's a shame is that there's nobody pushing for medical support for all the damage when they want to detransition. And I think it's a great point, because one of the things that I learned in studying this and listening to some of these people talk, because I've dealt with someone who's been going through the quote unquote detransitioning. And by the way, once all the parts are chopped off, there is no rebuild for that. There is no going backwards. It's done.
Mm-hmm.
And so the two things that I find out that are the most disheartening, and probably going to be the two things that cause the most suicidal tendencies in the future. I think in the next 20, 30 years, the suicide rate among this group of people is going to be astronomical. But the two things that I find out is one, when they go through these surgeries, whether they, they're trying to be male to female or female to male, they lose the ability to orgasm. They lose primary sexual function. It doesn't even feel good anymore.
That's right. And that's huge. And that's not something that they can imagine as a child. That's not something that they, typically experience as a child. And then they'll never have that. They'll never have that. Or, you see the women with top surgery that now they can't, breastfeed. They can't, do all of these things. And to go back, like you said, it'll never be the same. Right. And with the hormones and the therapies, and they'll never have a normal existence, because they don't experience that.
And it gets worse. But real quick before I continue, Possum Trap says, I'm in the Charleston chapter. So you got family in the chats.
Yay!
Hallelujah. Yeah. So the other thing that I learned about this is, and I don't see hardly anybody, in fact, I've only seen one or two people talk about it as a whole, is that these what they call their puberty blockers are really, they're really sterilization drugs that completely
to them. And I think you're right. We're, long-term to them. And I think you're right. We're, long-term studies that we're going to see that, these children to them. And I think you're right. We're, long-term studies that we're going to see that, these children that are wanting to detransition and the suicide rates. I mean, we see the short term, the amount of suicide, attempts and things like that. And, it's just absolutely heartbreaking because, where are the adults that stop and say, you know what, it's not worth the surgeries. It's not worth this. Let's get you some mental health counseling. Let's get you, seeing a psychologist or a therapist. And then, when you are an adult, if this is still what you want to do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years later, maybe that's that. But, previous studies show that 0.5% of Americans are considered transgender.
Yeah.
So not just the kids where I say, oh, I'm a boy today, I'm a girl today, like actually identify as transgender and have gone through the surgeries or doing, the transitioning really.
Let's talk about the children for a minute too, because I think there's another issue with, I guess, parental education, that most young parents don't understand that young children, especially children like 6 and under, are going to go through an identity crisis, because this is part of how they develop and how they learn who they are and they decide who they are and everything else. And if you screw with that process and you give recognition to something when the process isn't done, the amount of damage you're doing to that child, even if you're just giving verbal recognition, you're telling a little boy, okay, you're a little girl now, go put your makeup on. You said you were a little girl the other day because you played with a Barbie doll, so now you got to wear makeup and dresses. And no, let them just the same with little girls. If a little girl wants to play with a GI Joe, if a little girl wants to go out and climb the trees, some of the best women that I know in life were what we call tomboys.
Tomboys.
They did everything
the
boys
the
did.
tomboys, right?
Yeah, and then they still grew up to be beautiful women who knew how to hang out with guys.
That's right. Well, and we've had so many speakers speak on this, psychologists and therapists. And, that's the one good thing with Moms for Liberty is we always have all of these wonderful experts that want to come on our chapter chair calls or do these meetings, and nothing we do is in secret. So all of this is on, our national webpage, on our Twitter page, on our Facebook pages, that people can look and, get educated. Nothing we do is in secret. The only thing that's in secret is if there is a legal issue, and we have to kind of keep it quiet until that legal issue, plays out, like this Title IX, thing. So, we've had therapists who say, make tomboys normal again, just because somebody, or if they dress like a boy, if they prefer to wear, things that boys typically wear, or if boys like wearing, tighter things, like, don't take that as they want to be transgender. Just let them, like you said, figure it out. I mean, half of these kids, you have to remind them to brush their teeth and put their socks on, but you're going to change their gender. Like, they can't get a tattoo, they can't buy a lottery ticket, they can't vote, but you're going to start chopping off body parts and giving them Lupron.
And let me tell you about that real quick, by the way, because I have spent most of my life as a tattoo artist and still a political human being. I can do both. Sure. And here's the thing about it is exactly that. If a tattoo shop was to tattoo a minor under the age of 18, particularly without parents' consent,
right, or piercings,
or piercings in this state, and in most states, that's a felony. You're going to prison. They're going to shut your shop down. They're going to take away your livelihood. They're going to pull your licenses. The health department will come down on you like a ton of bricks. And the reason I point out the health department is because they're the ones in charge of all the licensing. You can't get licensed as an artist. You're not making money. You could try to be an underground scratch artist or whatever else, tattoo out of somebody's basement, but you're not going to make the money that you would have made. You're not going to have the name and the environment that you would have keeping your shop open. It is an absolute huge hit. And then the other thing is, I got to throw this in as well, because you know what? I have never done a tattoo without taking somebody's ID. So this idea that, oh my God, IDs are racist. You know what? I've never had anybody have a problem with bringing their IDs, their driver's license, whatever. So that's another garbage argument. But yeah, when it comes to children, especially, you know, I have people that, excuse me. So I have people that would bring me their young children and be like, well, I want the ears pierced, which we can do, but you got to have a notarized consent. It has to be notarized. Mm-hmm. You have to have the parent present when it happens. You have to have proof of guardianship. You have to have proof that that parent is the parent, you know, to begin with, and that they have legal right. And you have to have identification for the child as well. And I've done a lot of them, so it's not like this is an impossible feat as well. But when it comes to dealing with children, you got to jump through every hoop. Absolutely. You got to jump through every hoop. And they're going to say something like a piercing, you know, like a young girl comes in and wants her belly button pierced or something. She's too young. She can't have it.
Right.
And that's a big deal. You can go to jail for that. But a school can take somebody's child behind the parent's back and cut up their naughty bits any way they want and turn them into something that God didn't create.
That's right. Or give them, you know, the hormones, and it perfectly legal in California. Just got passed, I believe, 2 weeks ago, and absolutely normal for it to be done without parental consent and without parental knowledge. So it's horrible. And you even hear, you know, you have to be, you know, 18 to watch a rated R movie. I mean, something as simple as a movie. You can't go to the theater as a minor without an adult to see a rated R movie, but they're able to do these things. And again, it is so much bigger than, you know, oh, you know, these people are, you know, against LGBTQ, they're against trans, they're against this or against that. No, it's for children. There's a different set of, you know, rules and morals and values when it comes to children. And, you know, again, that's something that our organization is, you know, built on. And just educating people and saying, listen, like these, you know, if this happens, or look at the long-term studies of these things and look how many children have suffered or what's really going on in the schools. Because every time I say something, you know, this happened in Florida, absolutely, I send them the case from that, you know, January Littlejohn case. And now she has made it her mission, you know, in partnership with Moms for Liberty, to talk about, you know, what happened to her daughter here in Florida before the parental rights law, you know, and that's what we're doing with Moms for Liberty too, is, you know, so a lot of states have looked at our parental rights law, which basically says we have the fundamental right for our minor children for education, healthcare, curriculums, everything under the sun. It is our fundamental right. You would think that we wouldn't need a law for that, right?
Right.
But a lot of different chapters across the country have taken that law and brought it to their legislators and said, hey, listen, we need this because it's working for Florida, or there's A, B, and C case. And then if we have this here, this is not going to happen. But, you know, like California is one of those states that are like, no, we're not doing this, and won't even, you know, let them have meetings with them. So now they're attempting to vote them out, you know, and it's hard in the areas where, you know, these things are normal and these things are going on and these things are getting voted on. And they have, again, all of these, you know, NGOs that are coming in and saying, listen, you know, we need to do this. And, you know, kids are going to commit suicide if they don't transition from 11 to 17 or younger. So, you know, that's part of our cause, is to make sure, listen, get educated on this, and, you know, keep it out of the schools, and, you know, keep the parental rights, you know, at the forefront of all of these, you know, these discussions.
And so, you know, when she mentions NGOs, that almost made me stutter, because that's something I talk about a lot. These NGOs, the National Endowment for Democracy. All right, that's supposed to be a political thing. No, they're the ones that are behind. They're part of the group that are behind Color Revolution, that are pushing all of this garbage. They're not for democracy. They're for the destruction of democracy. The ADL is in on this as well. The Anti-Defamation League. They're supposed to be, oh my God, we're all about fighting anti-Semitism. No, they're not. They don't have anything to do with anti-Semitism. They're all about political terrorism and destabilizing this nation. We're taking a group of people who are less than 0.5% of this nation and trying to make them the loudest voice in the room and trying to destroy our own children and in comparative to this group. And these NGOs are the ones behind it. And this is part of what I talk about when I say we need to learn patterns. All right. So we need to help educate everybody with patterns, because people like us, we hear some of these words, we see this pattern alert. Our brains are going off like, oh no, this person's retarded. Get away from them. But so many parents aren't. And this is where we have to share the education. We have to keep the message going. And Moms for Liberty is doing a fantastic job of it. But this is also why I want to share this out. I want everybody to get the chance to see, to learn, to have a connection. Because if you go over to YouTube, you know what? Let me just share this real quick. I'm gonna share your guys' YouTube page so we can show everybody. So if you go to YouTube, I mean, look at this. This is let's go back up to the top. Moms for Liberty. This is their entire page.
Mm-hmm.
And they have, Joyful Warriors podcast. They do a fantastic job. They have conversations. They talk about everything that's going on. Congressman Byron Donalds at Moms for Liberty, James Lindsay. I mean, just right down the list. Everybody has spoken on behalf of Moms for Liberty. But then you start getting even down at the bottom here. You see down at the bottom, you get even some of the stuff from the breakdowns from their different counties and their different chapters. And so you have a few to scroll through there as well. But there's quite a bit going on. There's quite a bit of education to be had here. And this is just the YouTube channel. This isn't even the website itself. So the point is that, everybody, we're getting more resources, and Moms for Liberty is a fantastic resource to learning about some of this stuff and finding out that there's a lot more going on than most of us have realized. And it's quite sickening, but we have to deal with it, brothers and sisters. We have to deal with it. So let's move forward some. What are some of the issues that we're facing right now that we need to really start putting our attention to?
Sure. So if you are, not a Moms for Liberty member and you haven't, seen any of our socials or anything, go and look at our different tabs. So, different things going on in different states. You can see us. We have, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we have, our national chapter, page or website page, but you can also go to your local. So when you go to www.momsforliberty.org, there's a big map. We say we want to light up the map. So every county, each chapter governs its own thing. So we don't have like a national thing where it says, hey, everybody has to do this, right? So if there's an issue in your individual county where, maybe they're talking about budget, or they're talking about, a code of conduct, or having, metal detectors in schools, or whatever it is, you need to look at your individual chapter. And so there's the map. So you can click on that, and that'll bring you right to either their Facebook page or their email, if you just want to get on their email list, and you can find out what's going on in your county or in your state. And, so that's one of the beautiful things about Moms for Liberty is we govern our own chapters. So unless it's like the Biden Title IX thing where that is a national issue, because that was at the federal level, we all share, our curriculum. So when we're looking at curriculums that get adopted, every 2 or 4 years, depending on your school district, we're looking at code of conducts. Right now, the big thing in schools is, cell phones, cell phone usage. a lot of school districts are, asking cell phones to not be brought to schools at all, or just have them off. And again, we share all of our policies and procedures, from all different states and, all different things. Our resolution that we passed in Indian River County for the Biden Title IX, I shared that, and there, chapters across the country sharing that with their school board members to try to get adopted. So there's nothing really like right now, because again, we're like so engrossed in, the school year starting back up and elections, that there's no really like hot button topics other than like the, Biden administration Title IX, because that would have affected, our children had we not had the lawsuit win. But, again, just telling people, moms, dads, grandpas, grandmas to, just pay attention to what your children are bringing home. Looking at, with the school starting back up, the paperwork that comes home or that's online that you're signing for your children, make sure that you're not signing away your rights and you're reading everything. When you're looking at the curriculum, especially at like the high school level, you're looking at your children's, library books in their curriculum, to make sure that there's nothing in there that's against the law, or again, that's pornographic or sexually explicit. Make sure you're signing a parental consent for, the sex ed, the health classes. So like here in Indian River County in 9th grade, they see a live birth, they see a C-section, they learn about STDs. We got a parental permission slip. So this way parents know what their children are learning or, giving consent to. So this way, if it's something that's, not with their morals or values, or something that parents want to talk to their children about and not have it learned in school, having that parental consent. Here in Florida, a couple of years ago, there was a survey that was given to children all across the state from ages 10 to 17. And it was asking them, when was the last time you had sex? Did you use protection? Were you drinking or using drugs? And, there was no parental consent. So we got that signed into legislation, that you have to have parental consent to send these, surveys, with kids. Too. Yeah, it was
a lot of pissed off. Yeah, there was a lot of pissed off parents about that. A lot of pissed off parents. And here's the thing is they weren't going to say anything.
That's right. They wouldn't.
They weren't going to notify the parents at all. It was only because there was one parent who went through her child's backpack and went through all her papers and her, paid attention to her schoolwork and everything else, and found this piece of paper. And then, the Moms for Liberty came marching in and started whipping off their belts and whipping some asses. I'm telling you.
We did. And we got the legislation changed again. We advocated at the local level to get it fixed, but we're like, what? It's not just our school district. It needs to be for the state. And again, that was one of the things that we shared for the nation. Like, hey, look at this parental permission slip. If parents consent to them having these surveys, absolutely fine. But without parental consent, it's not going to happen on our watch. And that's our biggest thing. Like you'll hear, Moms for Liberty is anti-LGBTQ. They're anti-Black. They're anti-this. We were called domestic terrorists, back in 2021. And it's like, no, like one of our leaders of national engagement is an African-American lesbian. So like, we don't care. We don't ask what your religion is. We don't ask what party you're in. We don't ask these questions because it doesn't matter. Parental rights are fundamental, and across party lines and across religion lines and everything else, at the end of the day, we have the fundamental rights over our children. And I think that's why our movement has, gotten so big, is because everybody has a place here. And whether you want to be involved and, go to the school board meetings or work with legislators, or if you just want to act when there's a call to action. I mean, it can be as simple as, hey, reach out to the school board member and let them know how you feel about this. I mean, we had hundreds of emails go to our school district, about the Title IX and, about the code of conduct that's coming up and input on the new, school calendar. So just being as involved as you're able to, and just being aware of the issues in the schools.
And on top of it too, there's another aspect of this that I think a lot of people don't think about as well, is when you're part of a big organization like Moms for Liberty, you have a little bit of legal backup as well. So if you know, if these school board people and law enforcement try to push back and try to you know, make you feel like you're gonna face some legal trouble just because you had the audacity to speak up on behalf of your own children. Well, now you have some clout behind you, and that's the other thing that I love about this, because that's ultimately what I believe about our nation, is that if we all stand together, pull together, work together, organize together, the whole bit, then we have everybody. We have clout. So any one of us is no longer weak, because if they come after one of us, they have to come after all of us, because we're all going to support and defend each other. And Moms for Liberty is the greatest example of that. They are absolutely on the ball. And I'm actually wondering about that, Jen. Do you have any stories where anybody in the school board did try to push any legal opposition against parents or against your own members, and you've had to push back a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. So we even had, they tried to limit citizen input, which is our right. They've taken the cameras off of us. They've tried to push a citizen comment to the end and have it after the gavel, so it would not be included in the business minutes. We had over 100 people show up and say, no, you're not taking our rights. We know our rights. The board business is the citizen input and what citizens are bringing to you. Everything that's on your agenda, whether it's something big or something small, you still have to listen to the citizens. I mean, you have teachers coming up to speak, you have staff, you have parents, you have community members, and you can't censor their speech. So we've had them try that. We've had them sending threatening emails or text messages or letters. One of our parents lost his job. A school board member actually called his job. He worked for the Chamber of Commerce for many years, born and raised. And when he spoke up at a school board meeting, and it was during COVID, they were doing presentations, and the board had their seats on the dais, and then there were seats off to the side. So when they were doing presentations, the board would move to different seats. So essentially they had two seats. One of our parents sat in one of those seats that were empty, and they had him kicked out of the meeting after he spoke, and he was sitting in that chair because he wasn't social distancing, but he was the farthest away from everybody because nobody was sitting in those seats. Right. And then our chairman of the board at the time, who's no longer on the board, thank goodness, he called the Chamber of Commerce and got that dad fired. So we've had people, and again, across the state, not even in our chapter, they've had their livestock poisoned. There was, one of our, it was actually one of our Moms for Liberty dads. He's a chapter chair. He was also running for a county commission seat, and he was getting death threats sent to his house, saying, Moms for Liberty is going to die. We're going to kill you. Wow. And then his dogs were poisoned. And then another chapter, their cattle were poisoned as soon as they started their chapter, within 2 weeks, and it came
I've
out
actually
publicly.
Experienced that just doing this show. I'm pretty sure my dog was poisoned. I got death threats from specific groups of people, and it's astounding how many people are just they can't handle that somebody won't agree with them.
That's right. Well, and we have so many members that have, injunctions of protection against people, cease and desist. I mean, I know you were going through some legal stuff too. And, it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, look at Donald Trump. He got shot because, a difference of opinion. So it's, from the federal level down. And just agree to disagree. People just need to agree to disagree and move on.
I think one of the things we need to bring back is law and order. Like for example, in the situation that I'm dealing with personally, and it's been just an amazing amount of garbage around this idiot situation. It primarily stems from people thinking that they can use defamation as a political weapon. That's really what it comes down to. And the problem is, and I think this is a great thing, and I'm wondering if Moms for Liberty is addressing this at all. The problem is that our media and our politicians are using defamation as a political weapon. So now everybody thinks they can, well, we can just make up stories about each other. It doesn't matter. There's no repercussions. And one of the things that I'm doing is I'm proving to somebody that there absolutely are repercussions. And if you keep going, they're going to be very bad repercussions. And on top of it, not all of us are going to cower because we got a death threat. You know what I mean? Like that, a lot of these people, and the thing that I find is the majority of the people that are making the death threats are the cowards who are never going to commit the actions that they're advocating for. And I don't know, man. I feel like that's a fight we got to have. We got to let everybody know that this isn't going to work, because the other side of this is, and I think that's really going to be the ultimate outcome, for what Moms for Liberty does, along with the rest of us patriots, because it's everything that we're screaming for, is that we want this nation to be a nation of laws and justice. Again, we want this nation to rest on a moral value that all the laws that we stand for are predicated on. Most people don't understand when we talk about the Constitution for the United States of America, we're talking about a document of laws. That's what the Constitution is. Everything that we are and we're formed under is a set of rules that says this is how we operate. That's what laws are, the imposition of a moral code.
That's right. And we've gotten so far from our roots. So with Moms for Liberty, we do something called a Madison moment when we start our meetings, or when we have, when we do podcasts, things like that, getting back to our roots, reading from the Declaration of Independence, reading from the Constitution, and just we've gotten so far away from that. And I agree with you. The law and order is absolutely astounding in this country. But, even locally, our laws are not as strong as they could be when it comes to, what people are doing and saying and things like that. I mean, our liberal laws are second. I mean, they're horrible here. They need to be strengthened. So I do agree. And I think as, time progresses and, we have like a legal form that we have like on our chapter chair. So that is private, that goes directly to our lawyer. So we're always case building. So when the SPLC called us a hate group, that really affected our group, because it is false information. It's negative information. Yeah. They don't have the right to tell parental rights organizations that they're hate groups because they don't agree with us, right? So, every time one of these things happen, it goes through our legal department, and they have hundreds of incidents of people, being doxxed at work, or their children, or all of these things across the country.
Are there any defamation cases being brought against the SPLC for that?
So we are in current litigation against them for that. And again, we cited all of those, legal instances where people say, oh, you're a hate group, and then they attack us.
You want to hear something funny?
Sure.
The people that I'm in litigation with right now are also listed by the SPLC as a hate group.
Unbelievable.
Number 6 top earner in the United States, hate group. And these people are for good reason. I mean, they use all the appropriate language that goes with that you would expect. But I find it astounding that on the one hand, the hate group that I'm having an issue with, they want to correlate you with, and you're the quote unquote hate group that I support. I mean, we're fighting for liberty, and they want to list you in with that kind of garbage.
Right. No group has the right to tell another group. You know what I'm saying? And again, we're advocating for parental rights in children. So they have all these parental rights, groups on there, and we're not equivalent to the KKK and everything else that they've had listed for centuries.
And the thing that I know, having been around a little bit around Moms for Liberty, if you go into a Moms for Liberty, event, meeting, whatever, and you spew some of the same language as those people spew, you're getting kicked out if you don't end up with an ass whooping along the way. They are absolutely against that. All this, divisive language, everything else. Moms for Liberty is one of the most unifying organizations I have ever met. I have ever been proud to be proud of, I guess would be the appropriate term. I everything I can to help support, I'm going to do it. I'm hoping that in the future we can do this a little more often, and maybe start keeping everybody updated on what is going on and what we should be paying attention to, particularly in the next, what do we got, 3 months?
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely. It's huge.
it's a lot. So, um, are there any upcoming issues or things going on that in specific areas that you actually need more support for?
So we're always looking to gain membership. I mean, we have 2 states that we're not in. So if anybody wanted to join in those 2 states, you'll see it on the map. Again, just to be able to hold, state legislators, the Senate, and then things like that accountable, and looking at, policies and procedures in that state, because every state's different. We would love to, that's kind of our goal through the end of this year, to get those states. So again, we have parents, grandparents, community members, looking at, these states, and, we would love to have one in every county across the country. Obviously that's our ultimate goal, but just getting involved. And again, like I said before, if education isn't your thing, getting involved with the city, county commissioners, whatever it is that you interest you, and and reporting back, like what you're doing, where you're bringing a bunch of organizations and groups and people streaming to give accurate information to people. And that's what we do with Moms for Liberty. Is we're just, again, we're looking behind that education curtain and just bringing these issues to light. And nobody knows what's going to happen in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And when school starts, there's could be a whole new set of issues that come up. And just getting involved in your local chapter. Again, even if you're just following on, the Facebook page, or if you're on the email list, so this way when the next school board meeting is, or the next, if you're having elections coming up, when the next forum is, so you can be an informed voter. So this way, about your candidates and about the issues. And, you'll see a lot more stuff come up once, the elections are over, and, you have your board and you're able to have a good connection with them, talking to your school board candidates and the superintendent and everybody that makes those decisions for children. And that takes a long time to relationship build, especially when you walk in there and you say, I'm with Moms for Liberty. And, if you don't have a friendly board, it's really hard to, build those relationships or get people on the board that are even willing to talk to you.
Well, I think too, though, as Moms for Liberty is starting to build some name recognition that is truly astounding, and I mean has reached the upper echelons of our government. I mean, we have some big names in Congress who are proud supporters of Moms for Liberty, which I'm proud of them for that. Like Byron Donalds and a handful of others are very outspoken. Real quick, Jennifer if I could speak correctly, mentioned that there were 2 states. There's only 2 states out of the entire United States. There are only 2 states that Moms for Liberty doesn't exist in, and that's Utah and Idaho. So if you are in Utah or Idaho, this is a call to action. This is an all hands on deck alert. If you are in Utah or Idaho, reach out. You go to the momsforliberty.org. There's a button right there. Start a chapter. You get great people will help you get everything done that you need to, get everything connected, get you organized, everything. You can reach out. I'm sure Jen will have an abundance of information and people to connect you to as well. So if you are in any of those states, or for that matter, if you're in another state and you don't have a chapter in the county in which you reside and you want to start one, reach out. You have resources. I think the more we organize as patriots, and here's the thing that I want to add. This is my observation of everything. What better way to establish the foundation of the United States of America than with moms? with moms, the backbone of everything. Most people don't think about this. And I don't even know, Jennifer, if you've thought about this, but the whole reason we have skyscrapers and highways, stoplights, running water, septic. I mean, all of the things that we enjoy, these computers, all this technology, the only reason we have all of this is because of moms, and specifically because of family, because men will go out and conquer the world on behalf of their family. I mean, for love, man, I mean, first of all, let's be real. Let's be real. Any guy gets around a pretty woman that he's head over heels for, he's already an idiot. He's already willing to do anything anyway. Let's be real about that. Us guys, we get dumb when we love. But we'll build the world. We'll conquer the world. We'll do whatever we have to. We'll figure out how to do a backflip into space if that's what she wants, if that gets us where we want. So the reality is that because of family love, because of moms, because of wives, because of brothers and sisters, all of that is the reason that we have what we have in this world today. It's what motivates us. So what greater way to describe the foundation of rebuilding America than moms? What greater way? That is the rally point that we can all center around. That is the moral foundation that we can all agree that, what better thing. And let's be real too. Some of us, particularly those of us that are sons and daughters, don't piss off mom. Don't piss off mom. Mom says get it done. You get it done. I don't care if you're 40 years old. Mom will still whip her shoe off and whip your ass. So get it done. So once again, listen to mom. So
I never thought about that, but I do. I can appreciate that.
Yeah. It's there's a lot of levity to it, but there's a lot of truth, and that's the thing I love about it. It's the filial connection, the family connection that makes us everything that we are, and there's no greater symbol of that family connection than mom. So it's to me, it works on so many levels. It's astounding. So are there any other big topics going on right now that we need to focus on?
So I think we hit a little bit of it all, the big topics right now that have been kind of going on this year. There's nothing that I could think of off the top of my head. Just again, holding elected officials accountable, voting. That's been really kind of our spearhead,
Right.
In the summer now before, kind of school starts back up.
Right.
If we have this conversation in a month or 2 months, I'm sure it,
Oh
can
yeah,
absolutely
it's gonna
change. But,
it can change by tomorrow.
Sure. But, there's just so much going on, nationally that,
Right.
We're trying to really keep our focus on, getting, school board members elected in, August 20th. I think you said August 10th. So, just really paying attention to, what's going on locally and all these policies and procedures and new things coming in, with school starting here, in the next month, 2 months, depending on your school district.
So, Grand Mac, one of my loyal followers, and you would love Grand Mac, because Grand Mac she's a grandma, but she's like, I call her my gangster granny. Like I imagine her with like the old Al Capone Tommy gun, the old Chicago typewriter. She's like one of those kind of, those kind of personalities. She's a sweetheart. I love her, but she pulls no punches whatsoever. I think she would actually be a fantastic candidate to start her own chapter.
Mm-hmm.
But she makes a great point, and I've kind of been mulling this over in my head while we've been talking. Did you see the interview with Elon Musk?
I did.
And it was kind of heartbreaking because you could see it in his eyes how much it bothers him. Do you think anybody's considered maybe reaching out and seeing if he wants to be an advocate for Moms for Liberty as well?
I'm sure National has. I can certainly ask them, but I know after that was put out, there was a lot of chatter in, our channels with the chapter chairs and talking about it and seeing, saying, listen, he did this and didn't even think twice. He just got it done. So absolutely. I think that if they haven't had those conversations, they will be.
How
shortly.
amazing that
Absolutely.
would be. Yeah. How amazing that would be. Um, so one of the things that I was thinking about, because we were talking about like how effective, Moms for Liberty has been. And I noticed that like on the book issue that they backed off considerably on the overt, political push for, ultimately giving porn to our children. There's no other way to color that story. It's giving porn to our children. That's what they're trying to do.
Right.
So how much success have you seen from the inside on that issue, and how much do you think we still have to do or don't need to do?
Right. So there's still many chapters, even in Florida, you would think with our governor and our laws that are still struggling to get these books out because people are saying, oh, kids are doing this anyways. Censorship, First Amendment rights, all of these things, all the liberal talking points that you hear. Right. So, and then there's some states that won't even touch it yet. So again, we're trying to get our chapters to get, different laws in there and say, pornography is illegal for children across the country. That doesn't change. But when you're looking at the graphic sexual, again, rape, incest, pedophilia, bestiality, they say it's that gray area, in some of these states and in some of these, counties, even in Florida. Hillsborough is having a hard time. All their school board members are voting pretty much to keep all of these books when they're getting challenged and getting read at the dais and read at the podium. So, in a lot of places like our county, it is done. They've went through all the libraries. They actually redid one of our libraries. They're redoing one over the summer here, and they're looking through basically every single book, which they haven't done in our school district since 2014. So with these laws now, it's holding, these people accountable. So again, just looking across the country and saying, hey, like if you're having issues with these books, take a look at these laws, or, let's look at policies and procedures to, it's called weeding through these books and making sure that, these books are being read by children, make sure that they don't have the pornography or the sexually explicit content. Or whatever is prohibited by law in that specific, state or town. But I do think that there's been, a lot of positive light shined, especially in the past year, because you see, like on our YouTube channel and on our Facebook pages, these, moms and dads and community members reading these books and really like showing the true evidence of what's in them, and not just, quote unquote, banning books because they're about African Americans or Hispanics or, LGBT, all these things that you hear, that's just absolutely not true. So I think as more people are standing up and, reading these materials out loud, or, these lists that are circulating again from so many parental rights groups now across the country, it's kind of becoming less and less talked about, and people are taking action on it to, protect children in the end.
So that brings to light, and I think one of my other chatters mentioned it earlier. What about, okay, so we're worried about the books, right? And rightly so. But what about the children having free access to pornography right on their phones? Is Moms for Liberty addressing that at all as well? Is there anything going on that front?
Sure. So actually here in the state of Florida, there is a law now that says that third-party apps are having to verify, with parents, and, having all of these safeguards that, children cannot just go on that. But there's a fine line of, parental rights and parental responsibility. So it is parental responsibility. If you give your child a smartphone, it is your responsibility to know what apps are on there, to have the sensors for the internet. So like my children, they can't see anything, under, I have it set for like PG-13. They can't, see rated R content or have access to pornography. There's automatic firewall on that. Same thing with Netflix. So you're looking at, these different streaming things, Hulu, you can set all of those parental, barriers. So same thing with phones when, they have, Snapchat or TikTok or something like that, you can set those parental controls up. So again, that's kind of falls into the parental responsibility. But as far as third party being able to, put ads that could be pornographic or sexually explicit on children's phone, we do have laws for that, actually championed by Aaron Grawl here in Indian River County for the state. And again, so when you give children a smartphone, you can't just give it to them and expect them to do the right thing. You have to have those parental safeguards, and we always do a lot of podcasts and a lot of talks about that. On a lot of our, you'll see like the YouTube channels and things. We actually had a sheriff come on and say, hey, when you're on Snapchat with your, children, because a lot of kids use the Snapchat that, teenagers, hey, there's a ghost mode. Did you guys know that there's a ghost mode? And he would literally take his phone, go on Snapchat, and show you how to take the ghost mode off, so they can't have private chats and private messages to people or friend people that, having passwords set up. So, if they try to change their password, you get an email. So we've had, again, a lot of education from people who, do social media things to kind of show parents like, hey, when you do have TikTok, these are the things that you can do to safeguard your children, or, Instagram and Facebook and things. I'm pretty Facebook literate, but when that person got on and said, hey, you could do all this with Facebook too, I didn't realize, and you can have a child account off of it. So that's a great question. We get asked that all the time. Not really something that we can do for Moms for Liberty other than advocating and educating, for those laws, or, making sure that parents know, like, hey, you can set the parental, settings like you do with Netflix and everything else. So.
And one of the great things that Moms for Liberty has been doing is getting the education out and saying, hey, we're trying to push this legislation through these people. Call them up, show up, vote. This is why we need to vote on this bill, that bill, et cetera, when they're put forward as a vote for referendum.
That's right. Yes, we have legislative committees in each state. So chapters can participate or don't have to participate, depends on membership and if they're able to do that. But so here in Florida, we have a legislative committee, and we try to get one person from each chapter that we have. So each county, and we look at everything, and we pick like our top 5 things that we want to advocate for. And then we're kind of the spokesperson for our chapter. And then we bring that to our chapter membership. Hey, is there anything we should add? And as these bills are going through, the Senate and the House, because not a lot of people know, to get a bill passed, to get a law passed, it has to go through the House, it has to go through the Senate, and then the governor has to sign it. I didn't know that until Moms for Liberty and learning how all these laws work. But really keeping our chapters engaged in that process and saying, hey, like when a bill is coming. So there was, recently a change with the library books and how you can change, how you can challenge library books, across the state in your chapter. We would bring that and say, hey guys, so like August 1st, like this becomes law and this is what we can do. And, really just letting people, again, know their rights, know what the law is and, what we were advocating for, while still asking our membership, hey, is there anything else that we should be, advocating for? Have you seen any other bills that maybe we missed? And then we bring it to our legislative committee. So again, it's all ran by members. It's ran by, people who are making a difference. And again, we're going through, people like you who are pushing that information out there. And again, nothing's secretive, nothing's, we're going and speaking publicly to, these House representatives and senators.
And to be clear too, like any bit that I can help to support, I absolutely will.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
For me, this is the foundation of everything that we're trying to protect. You listened to my intro video, right?
I love it.
As it was playing. Thank you. I believe in all of that 100%. I believe in it. I think those are the words that are the most important to everything that we are. And so everybody that helps do this, fight for this, well, I want to say to fight for our future, but we're in essence fighting for our past as well. We're fighting to be everything that our founding fathers meant us to be on the day that our creation happened, you know, as a country, the day, and I want everybody to understand this too, by the way, the Constitution for the United States of America did not happen overnight. There wasn't a group of people that said, hey, let's hurry up and just write this down and this is going to be who we are now. They fought and they kicked and screamed and scratched and everything else. I mean, these people battled it out. It was like a battle royale of the wits for, I mean, a very long time. Like there was a couple of years of this to ferret out and argue out every little detail of the Constitution and the best way to come about it, because they wanted to create a nation where we could have individual liberty, which means freedom. We could have the idea of freedom that as long as anything we do doesn't detract from somebody else's ability to do, then we have freedom, and vice versa. And that we can have the ability to rise or fall of our own decision. We can either be motivated and try to take over the world, or we can be lazy bums and sit at home. As long as we can figure out how to pay for it ourselves, we can be ingenuitive. We can be, you know, anything that we want to be. The right to self-determination. All of this is what we were meant to be. So we're fighting for our past because these people in our future want to take away, that have been taking away from us, been taking it away from us for a long time, as it turns out. And we're waking up to the reality that we should have been paying attention. And so if we want a future, we have to work towards that. Right. So anybody and everybody that does that, and I want to put that word out for everybody, anybody who is standing up for the dream that this nation is supposed to be. Not, you know, it kind of astounds me, and I don't know if you've ever thought about this, Jennifer, is when President Trump talks about make America great again, the first thing that I think is that we can't wait for a president to do it. It's going to take all of us. So, you know, thinking that President Trump is going to somehow do all this for us is a farce in and of itself. But I don't ever want to make this nation anything that it has ever been. I don't want to make it something again. I want to make it what the dream was supposed to be to begin with, what the ideology was at its very onset. That's my fantasy, my goal, I don't know, all of that wrapped into one, my hope, absolutely, my dream, all of it in one. So anybody that's working towards that, it doesn't matter if we know each other, don't know each other. You're my brother, you're my sister, and that's what we're going to do. That's we're going to do it together because that's the right thing to do.
Right. Well, and we're all puzzle pieces to this. So, you know, you have to have the people who are doing the work. You have to have the people who are researching the work. You have to have the people who are putting out the truth like you. So there's everybody's puzzle pieces to make that happen. So, you know, and that's why, you know, with our organization, we're member driven. I mean, there's nothing from the national level that says you have to do A, B, and C. No, like talk to your parents, your grandparents, your community members, see what the issues are, and let's fix them. And then if it's a huge issue, if we have to, you know, advocate at all levels of government, which is in our motto, then you go up and fix it for the state or fix it for the country. And, you know, just bring that information to, you know, the people that are going to make the difference, which is, you know, our chapter members, where they say, hey, I don't want this to happen in the schools, or if this is happening here, it could be happening here, or let me do a public records request, which is our right to see, you know, what's going on, or, you know, show up at that school board meeting or watch it on YouTube, or however you're able to do that and get involved as much as you can, for sure.
So how much is Moms for Liberty doing in that, in voter education?
It's huge right now. That's one of our biggest pushes. Like I said, we had a $3 million donation to start driving, people to vote, at the local level and at the state level. And again, not telling them who or what to vote for, but hey, did you know that there's early voting? Did you know that the day of you can vote, for us here, 7 to 7, so you can go before work, you can go after work. Did you realize that if you can't drive or you don't drive or you're blind, that there's mail-in ballots? So many people, oh, I can't vote because I don't have a car or I don't drive, or, and then they're not voting. So no, get a mail-in ballot, sent to you. People who work, EMTs and nurses, where they're working, 7 to 7 and they can't vote. Well, go to early voting. I mean, it's just this little simple information like that, and putting it out on our socials and putting it out in our emails. Getting people registered to vote. I can't tell you how many people I talk to who join, Moms for Liberty and say, I don't vote, or I'm an independent, so I don't vote. And it's like, no, there's many nonpartisan seats like school board, here in Florida for now, that you can vote for as an independent or NPA. So it's, again, not saying you have to vote for this person or you have to advocate for these issues, just giving the general knowledge that, hey, like, even if you are an NPA or independent, you can vote for these things. And now there is some that you can't, or if you're a Democrat, you can't vote for these, just giving them that information because nobody explained it to them, or they didn't learn it in school, or they didn't have parents who taught them that, or they had non-political parents that didn't teach them that, and I was unfortunately one of those people. Until COVID, I didn't know you vote in the primaries. I thought primaries, there was 1 or 2 people you voted for, and I was looking more at the national politics, president and things like that. I personally, I'm guilty of that. I didn't know that there was primaries that you voted in. So I said, you know what, if I'm that mom that was working full time and I had my family and my loving husband, and I was so focused on that, like, I need to tell people, I need to inform people, listen, you got to vote in August. And that's all your local politics that, is so big, and it really makes a difference. And of course, national politics is huge as well. But we have more months to, look at those elected officials and have time to look at those stances and see where they're going.
And I think too that if we get a handle on our local politicians, that eventually, those are the guys that are going to filter out to our national politicians, overall. They always, almost always, unless your name's, Donald Trump, then you just skip everybody and go right to the top.
That's right.
But he had the name recognition to do it. He's been talking about, and I find that astounding, by the way. Everybody's known his politics, since he was a young man. He's been talking about the same stuff. All these videos are coming up. But I digress. The point is that if we have our finger on the pulse of what's going on in all of our local elections, all of our local, policy makers, movers and shakers, then that's also going to establish what our federal government can do. Because I want you to think about this. If the Biden administration were to say that, hey, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that, and if every sheriff in every county in every state said, no, you're not, we're not going to do any of that, what are they going to do?
That's right. Which hasn't happened in years past, which is, again, what we're realizing this now, how important, and some people always knew. Some people are probably laughing at me like now, like saying, oh, this girl on here, she never, voted in the primaries. But we all have that point where we get educated on, certain topics and certain things, and we learn, and then you have to educate other people, and I'm open to listen to everybody and say, listen, like, I didn't know that, like, tell me more. I love information. Like, somebody will come up and tell me something, which is so wonderful with our organization because we're member driven, tell me more, or, hey, I see that this really means something to you. Can you do some more investigation on this and get back to me? And, maybe we'll bring it to a school board meeting, or we'll bring it to our next, Moms for Liberty meeting. Our chapter meets monthly. So I think that's so important, because so many organizations and so many places, they're like, hey, we're going to do A, B, and C, and they don't get the input from their membership, or or there's one person who wants to lead and tell everybody what to do. No, like, I'm an open book. Like, come and talk to me, come and talk to my executive board, come to a meeting. Unfortunately, our meetings are now private, because we, had a couple of, we had public events for years and years and years. And then our group started kind of calling when we would put out that public place, hey, it's going to be at such and such restaurant. They would call and tell the restaurant that we were domestic terrorists, that we're a hate group. And then that restaurant would cancel us. So then we would go to another restaurant, same thing, put it out publicly, because we don't have anything to hide. Come and hear what we're talking about, what we're advocating for. And then that would get shut down. So now, unfortunately, for the past, I say, year and a half, we have private meetings where basically we send our emails out. We have it out on our socials, but you have to send us your name, your email address, how many people are coming, and we have to vet those people. And then we tell them the location, a day before, so this way we don't get canceled. So, but we do that to protect our membership too. But it's like, we don't have anything to hide. Like, we literally learn everything from our parents, grandparents, and community members. Our executive board is mainly people that ran for school board and either didn't get the seat, or,
it's amazing.
It's amazing.
The people that cry about, oh, my democracy, are the first ones to want to censor everybody from participating in the democracy. Oh my God, you said something I don't agree with. It's the end of the world. You have stolen my childhood. How dare you?
Right. Well, then I really tick them off and say we're a constitutional republic. So, you hear, I mean, how many times did Biden say democracy tonight? And it's like, no, but the United States, we're a constitutional republic. So
exactly.
Turn that back around,
When they say democracy, what they really mean is their fascist control. The democracy is not a part of their equation. It never has been. I mean, let's be real. They claim to be Marxists, and this is something. If you watch my show long enough, you'll learn quite a bit. Like the fact that there's no such thing as communism. Most people don't know that. Like, wait, what? There's no such thing as communism. Well, communism only exists on paper. It only has ever existed on paper. Everything now, even China, we hear about China, communist China, they're communist, right? They say they're communist. They use the word communist. They must be communist. But if you break down what they're doing, it's still fascism. And fascism is really nothing more than a system of controls, primarily, government, heavy-handed controls that are all based on corruption. And when you sit down, and this is something I've learned as a history nerd that I am, I love history. When you sit down and you write out a list, and you say, okay, I'm going to take this country, I'm going to take this republic, and I want to turn it communist. Here's the steps that I would take to turn this into a communist country according to what they believe communism is. And then you set that piece of paper aside. You say, okay, now here's the steps that I would take if I wanted to turn this country into, a fascist authoritarian control. And you make the list. And then you hold up the two lists and realize they're the same exact list. It's the same thing, no matter what. And none of it ever, I mean, history repeats itself over and over again. And none of these lists include anything where the people get a say.
That's right.
None of these lists ever include the part where they lose all financial ability, that their economic forecast is a Fibonacci spiral where it constantly devolves to zero. And then how do you overcome zero? You have to kill off the populace. Every time. It's the only way they can do it. And then on top of it, it's got to be a single party rule. So everybody who politically disagrees with me has to go. So there's your murder right there. And it's always the same ballgame. There is no version of this that doesn't work. And that's what these people, that's what they want. The worship of failure, the worship of destruction. They want to destroy everything and not build. And that's what we're fighting for. We're fighting to live in a world where we can build, where we can provide, where we can be prosperous. And So I want to share with everybody these constant messages, this constant understanding, like I said, the pattern recognition, and the more we can all work together to do it. So here's the thing: is we're coming to the end of the clock here, and I want to first say thank you very much for being here. I truly appreciate it. This has been fantastic. Anytime you want to do this, anytime you want to come on, if you've got something going on, if Moms for Liberty has something, if you have anybody else that you want to send my way that needs to talk about something, I'm going to help boost the signal. The replays and everything that I get on this are pretty. I mean, I'm not a huge podcast, but we draw some attention here, and we have some great people, some of the great people, from around the country that love America also. If you could give us a breakdown of, if somebody wants to join, get involved, participate, or even just learn more, could you give everybody a review on where to go and what to do?
Absolutely. So at the national level, it's www.momsforliberty.org. Like you were so gracious in showing the map. We want to light up the map. So you can click on your county and join. It'll bring you to either their Facebook page or their website or their email address, however they have it set up. Again, we govern our own chapters, and then if there's not, click start a chapter, and it'll just ask you for basic information. And what our national organization does is they put a little team together. So you'll have a bunch of people that'll get together and put a chapter together. They have support that will help your chapter get started. It's a great group because we're all volunteers. None of us are paid as chapter chairs. A couple of our leadership are, but you'll get put in these chats where we're always helping each other. People are always calling me, texting me, emailing me. Everybody's always willing to help. And again, there's no requirements. You can do as much or as little as you have time for. Most of us are full-time working parents. We love our Moms for Liberty dads and grandparents and uncles and moms. So if you can just answer call to actions, or if you want to get really involved and be on the executive board and show up to school board meetings. So that's, again, another wonderful thing about our organization is you don't have to go to every single meeting, answer every single email, just as much or as little as you can contribute. And, www.momsforliberty.org. If you have any just, generic questions, info@momsforliberty.org. One of the co-founders answer that. So you're getting it, right from one of the people who started the organization. And I just want to thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I appreciate everything you do, and, just getting the word out. And again, our organization just being, based on facts, stats, and the truth, just love talking to people. And, again, if you have an issue or you see something, even if you're not a Moms for Liberty member, reach out to your local chapter and say, hey, this is going on. And, you'll see how fast, people get involved and, want to fix that issue for your children and your family. And, just spread the word. And hopefully we can, maybe with your podcast, we could get, our 2 last states across the country and celebrate.
We can keep banging the drum. We will keep reaching out. I definitely want to do this some more. Is there an email, or, if somebody says, hey, this thing's going on, I want to send this to somebody to look at. I don't have anybody close to me that I can just drive to. Is there an email they can go to, or some other means of communication?
Right. So that the best thing would be to go to that map and go to the county. So now if there's not a Moms for Liberty chapter in that county, do that info@momsforliberty.org. Again, that goes to one of our co-founders. And what they do is they filter it out to us. So let's say somebody didn't go on the website and they go to info@momsforliberty.org and they say, hey, I'm in Indian River County and I'm having trouble with my kindergartner for such and such. They forward that email to me. It comes to us in my executive executive, committee, and we will, reach out to that parent and, get them help, whether it's connecting them with the school board member or, getting them to a meeting or doing a public records request to find out, what their specific issue is. Again, we govern our own chapters. And then if it's obviously a nationwide issue, if they're asking questions about like the Title IX with the Biden administration, with the lawsuit that we won, the co-founders will answer, like that question. But, info@momsforliberty.org will always get you there. But if you want to get more personal, definitely go to that map and, click on the chapter where, you live. Or, we've had grandparents say, hey, my child in another state, absolutely click on that county and just connect them. We're constantly connecting people because we want them to be engaged. We want them to know what's going on. So that's the easiest way to get a hold of us.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic. I think we are starting a movement. We are starting an idea that is becoming an institution. And wow, we're doing it around moms.
Yep.
I mean,
it's all about the kids. It is. The kids are our future. It's so important because we've gotten so far away from, like you said, just the dream, the fantasy, the thing that everybody wants, for their families.
Well, I have this idea in my head that we as a nation, having made a covenant with God, that our founding fathers said, our Father in heaven, we will do this. If you will agree to watch over us and protect us, we will walk in your light as faithful servants of you, that we will create this nation, that we will create a nation of the people, for the people, according to God's word, because this is what God calls us to. We will do all of that as long as we can have you be a part of it, that you can help govern the nation and set the moral foundation that we set forth. And we're violating that covenant, by the way, as we are right now. But I truly believe that we were meant, and this is my metaphor for the whole thing. We were meant as a nation to be the lighthouse, standing on the cliff, unwavering and unbending as the waves crash against us, as we face every storm that comes our way, unwavering and unbending as we hold up that shining light that is God's word, that is the beacon of prosperity and liberty to the rest of the world, that we say, hey, not only are we your moral compass, not only are we your guiding light, but we're also your safety net, that we have you. If you can't get it where you're at, you can come to us, that we are the representatives of the Holy Ghost. We are the representatives of everything that God calls us to be. And I mean, everything that we're doing, everything that we're talking about falls underneath that umbrella. Everything we're talking about, God's word, the family connection, the right way to have a family, to have a loving family, that when we talk about build it and they will come, we're talking about the dinner table, the family meeting place, the place that we break bread together, where we share our day, our story, where we have the family meeting and talk about everything that we need to talk about. All of that falls within that. And wow, we got a lot of work ahead of us, don't we?
We do. Well, and I always say I'll sleep when I'm dead, because there's always, something to do, and something else that comes up. And, it's important that the kids are worth it. Parental rights is worth it. And, we have a huge task in front of us, but the harder we work now, hopefully we'll be able to not work as hard, once we, kind of get some foundation and, again, get the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and our roots back into the homes and into these school boards and cities and county commissioners and all the way up.
And just so you guys know, I happen to have a little bit of inside information. I know that Jennifer is one of the most dedicated and motivated individuals that I've run into in a long time in the political arena. She's gone to multiple counties and presented and talked about, like, the issue with the books, everything else, everything that Moms for Liberty is standing for. She's getting out and spreading the message and having the words, having the conversations with everybody involved. So this isn't, just to go hang out or, hey, look how cool I am. I get to be associated with these people. these are motivated individuals, and I think that she has the right answer. I think that Moms for Liberty has the right answer, that we all need to be motivated. We need to put some energy in our butts, and we need to put some vigilance on and start paying attention, because we're going to lose it if we don't pay attention to it. So thank you again.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on, and thank you for everything that you're doing. I really do appreciate it.
I appreciate you. So I want to give you an opportunity. Is there any final closing thoughts before we go ahead and wind down?
I think we're good. I appreciate your time, and again, looking forward to being on again, and maybe getting some other girls from across the country to talk to you and about their issues and things that they're working on. And I think when school gets started back up, we'll have a lot more kind of state and local driven issues. For sure.
We definitely need to. I'm open to all of it. Like I said before, if there is any literature, graphics, videos, anything that I can help share. I have, of course, I have an X account. It still feels weird to call it X. It's like we've always called it Twitter, but I have an X account, and I have a lot of supporters on X. I don't have the biggest account on X. I mean, I'm up to 17,500 followers, which is astounding to me, by myself. But I mean, I got friends, people who help support the message, that have 150,000, 200,000 followers each as well. And so if there's stuff that we could share and move along, all of these people will help participate. It's all about working together, which is why it works so well. We have so much reach because so many of us want what our moms want, and so many of us don't want to disappoint mom either, because she might take that shoe off. So we don't want that problem either. So I will give you a call in a minute if you don't mind.
Sounds good.
And in the meantime, we're gonna send you out. I'm gonna see you next time. We're gonna make arrangements. We're gonna do this again.
Sounds good. Thank you so much again.
We're probably gonna do it once a bunch of times. We're gonna keep the message strong. We're gonna keep the signal strong. We're gonna keep everything going. Here's the thing. Information is ammunition, and everybody needs to be armed up right now, because we are in a war. There's no doubt about it. So Jennifer, thank you. We truly appreciate you. God bless you, and I'll see you in a little bit.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
You too.